Hello guys, welcome to another multiplayer battle in Napoleon Total War. This is number 3, as I am on Waterloo. Yes, this is a 3v3, very good 3v3. I'm surprised I won it.
Damn this weather, sir. Wet powder makes misfires a certainty.
But I guess you guys will get to see how the battle goes down. It is raining yet again. Another one of my battles. So I guess I'll go over my infantry real quick. So I have, I believe, about 2 old guard, and then basically the rest of them are fusiliers, 1 militia, and then 4 voltigeur units, and then just general staff. And then for my Prussian ally, basically a spam of musketeers is all he has. And then 2 rocket troops, and then Count Von. I'm not even going to attempt to say that. Sorry. And my British ally, 6-pounder, foot artillery. No, that's horse, isn't it? Oh yeah, horse artillery. And then he has a couple units of light foot guards. Then he has a couple of. Those are the enemy rockets that are so hateful in this whole entire battle. You see the British player go British against British, and then a couple of rocket troops on the opposite side, and then Austria gonna give this Prussian a bit of problems. Landschützen, and then 3 units of foot artillery, 12-pounder, and then yeah, more Landschützen and some dragoons. Not my most detailed walkthrough of the units, but yeah. So I noticed that I was taking fire from the rockets, so I kind of advanced off the hill. But I'm going to have to move my troops a lot during this battle, so I'm going to fast forward until we get to some more combat, because it's kind of slow at the beginning of the game. Yeah, the rockets. See already a bunch of casualties taken from both my ally of the British and me. A couple of my old guard have dropped, a couple of fusiliers. And this is where the main part of the battle starts. You'll notice I send up a few units. You notice I send back most of my army, because I don't want to waste that. Because I noticed that the British player, I'm already taking losses because I just did that. But for now, I'm just going to keep fast forwarding because this is a really long battle. See, I fall back with my line and up to a point where he can't shoot at me. And then I try to make up a strategy of what I'm going to do. And that turns out to be here in a second. I think I figure it out of what I need to do. Yeah, I set up my 4 voltigeur units. This Prussian player kind of just sits there, just takes canister shot to the face all the battle almost, which is unfortunate. Then I sent up 4 fusiliers and 1 militia, well, 3 and 1. And this is where the main battle honestly starts. It's right here. Okay, you see I'm putting some good fire down this Schlesien Schützen, the enemy Prussian player. That's pretty much all he has for lights. So all my voltigeur units have started firing, as I am now retreating my army back a bit. I think I left this fusilier up for now, just for if I need reinforcement. That's when I moved the line up just a bit, so they're now almost pretty much in range of the enemy. And then he advances to get into my firing range. His herd begins to be pounded on them. Musketeers start firing on my men. Yeah, this is pretty much where the main battle is at this point. But it will change to where it moves over here. And you'll see what happens in a bit. If I had the best idea to have a militia unit on this flank, but at that point, it was just on that side, so I just chose it. So it's me and the British player against the Middle Prussian player on the enemy. Then of course his stupid rocket troop back there. Unfortunately, I never bring cav, so I didn't even attempt to take it out. My allies do have cav, but they didn't try to push to that point. My poor friend, the British, was just taking losses like a ham. I don't even know what that was supposed to mean, but either way, he's taking major losses. And then this is where the Prussian player pushes up a bit. He's not going to charge me, but he is just going to push up. Now it gets even farther in range, and much more deadlier musket fire commences. Is this musketeer unit right here is getting really, really low. Men, is both me and the British player just cutting down the Prussian. It's like a knife through soft butter. Slav, they're kind of flanking me. He's kind of flanking me over here, but I'm just gonna deal with it for now. My Voltigeurs are gonna probably route here shortly. They're getting really, really low in numbers. I think they are just about to route.
Our men are running,
just
sir.
as I said that, there they go. That's my first Voltigeur unit down. This foot gunner is just getting pounded. But for the most part, the Prussian player is just getting obliterated on the battlefield. What the heck was that? Battlefield. I can't speak today. For the most part, the militia is just still cutting down these musketeers, but musketeers are going to take advantage of this whole being one militia unit. And they will eventually rout. You see they're pretty much down morale already. And then that's when the Prussian player just gets a massive rout in the middle of his units. So we've already basically cut into his line pretty good. And then the other Prussian player on my team is just kind of pounding the Austrian player with rockets. And then that's what I'm talking about when I said canister shot.
Running, sir.
He didn't even attempt to charge these cannons the whole entire battle. He just, like I said, got sliced up really, really bad. And then this is where the Austrian player begins to flank just a bit. So this militia unit is going to start getting cut up. That's why I moved my units up a bit farther, because you're still getting hit by rockets and it'll just continue to happen. And I think these few units did come back from routing, or a couple of them. This British player is on the enemy team is getting ready for a massive charge in a little bit. Prussia has a couple of cuirassiers still ready to fight. A couple of rifles, light foot British. We're pretty much getting pounded out here by artillery. This is where I pushed my line forward because I saw that they were routing. Pushed it forward just enough for a bit more deadlier musket fire. That's just going to give these musketeers an advantage on my militia unit, which is really, really low. And it's just going to rout here in a second. These Landschützen, pardon that, are getting basically stabbed in the stomach by these British foot guards. Annoying rocket troops just continue to pound on them.
Our men are running,
and that's
sir.
when the militia unit routes. And that's when I kind of move this Fusilier line to counter against them and basically chop them up from the legs down. And that's when I move these Voltigeurs, and that's when I begin to flank these final Prussian line infantry units. And I move this unit up here, I believe, to keep fire on them. Yep, there we go. And like I said, this is ridiculous because he never charged his men. He wouldn't have gotten cut up as bad as he did. But I think he was just waiting for his rocket troop to just take them out, but that was never going to happen completely. the final remaining Prussian infantry
Sir!
units.
Sir! Our general is under
The
attack!
channel is not under attack. But, yeah, remaining units are just getting slaughtered at this point. So I have both line infantry and volunteers going up against them. And the British player is just going to finish off whatever is left on his side. And then this mass cav and infantry charge just happens. And my allied British player just gets slaughtered in cav charge. And his infantry has already kind of been beaten up by the stupid rocket troops that are left back there. And then, yeah, the Middle Prussian player is now pretty much gone, non-existent at this point. All he has left are those annoying rocket troops. All that remains of them. And I kind of advance forward a bit just to start taking this flank. It's pretty much all the action that's going on around here, besides over here. As the British player tries to fend off the other British player, which isn't going to succeed too much. Is his general just getting pounded by rockets. Thankfully they're missing and kind of hit the building. And whatever I have remaining of this front line is still shooting at the enemy. Just pounding away at them, these Hungarian grenadiers. Not going to last too long.
Our men are running, sir!
And I believe I typed to the allied Prussian player, need to push forward a bit, or come push with my flank. So we kind of did, and just basically charged them, whatever was left of the Austrian units on this flank. And back to the allied British player, he's not in very good condition. He's kind of got whatever's remaining of Prussia's infantry shooting at him, which isn't much, so he's just going to charge them. My volunteers just cutting them up. Blech, rocket troops. Doing a lot of damage. It's not too pretty. And that's when we got hit with a couple of grenades. Didn't do much. Then we just basically start firing these Hungarian Fusiliers. And then these musketeers randomly came back. 43 men left. And that's when the Prussian player kind of begins to push forward. After I kind of told them even more.
One of our
We
units has
need
used
your
all
help.
its
We
ammunition,
need
sir.
your help. We need your help. Push with us. As the Austrian flank is just continuing to collapse. Whatever is left of my Voltigeur is just kind of reforming that I move this unit up to. I believe all my men are beginning to get low on ammo in this area where I do have any units. Because I still have basically my full army sitting back here, doing nothing at this point. Which will come in handy later against the British army and whatever is remaining of the Austrians later. That's when I charge in that Fusilier of line. This is pretty much all of what's remaining of my front line from earlier when this main combat happened.
The entire unit is dead, sir.
Apparently, my last Voltigeur of the other unit that charged this unit earlier just died. And I kind of turned this unit assuming that they would rout these Hungarian Fusiliers, but they didn't. Just to basically cut up the rest of these Hungarian grenadiers that are sitting here. Because they're going to just die quickly and suddenly. And then, as I said, Allied British player just got overwhelmed. Though he did do damage to the British army. And this is when I move over some of my reserve units, like I said, come in handy later, to come basically take out whatever's left of this British player, which is pretty much his majority of his army. And then kind of just get countercharged against these Hungarian grenadiers and get charged in the back by these Hungarian Fusiliers. And then, basically, I just tell my men, walk. Then I'll start running, because I know that they're going to get outflanked quickly if they don't run. So the British player is pretty much non-existent for Allied reinforcement. He has a lot. The other British player, the enemy, has quite a few reserve units and experimental howitzer. Quite a bit left of his army. It's going to be a bit of a problem for me later on, as whatever's left of this Fusilier of line is still present. And that's when the British Prussian player finally charges, honestly, though he's not going to do too good in melee against the Austrian player. That's when I start running my Fusiliers of line to come and start combating whatever's left. And then that's when, yep, the rockets start targeting me again. I noticed that and automatically moved them in a minute. So I didn't want to take too many losses from the ridiculous rockets, and there they go, back up the hill. And then it pretty much turns into a melee charge, is what honestly happens. But the 6-pounder horse artillery that my Allied British player still has is actually going to do a lot of damage.
Our men are running, sir!
And that's when that final unit of Fusiliers finally routs from that front line I had earlier. I continue to get hit by stupid rockets. And then this line just basically got melee charge, like I said. But I am going to rout a couple of their units before that happens. And then that's when canister shot happens. That's what I was talking about. That artillery is still going to do some damage. And that's still getting bombarded by rockets on their way back up the hill. This is the main front exactly right now. This is King's German Legion of foot. Pretty much done for. And then they get charged, unfortunately. Gonna be the end. My Allied British artillery. Actually, maybe not. Maybe they'll still live. Oh yeah, they took a lot of damage from that. Oh! Maybe they'll live. I don't know. They might live through the battle. Nope, there goes one British artillery. That's when he discharges the rest of his mass in at this point. But I routed a lot of his units before mine eventually rout, just basically being overwhelmed by the British. There's the continuing rockets.
Our men are running, sir!
You see, there's still a good majority of the British army left, but I did do a lot of damage before all my men routed. So I guess I'll get to fast forward. That's why I send 2 more units down to come combat them. So I'll just start fast forwarding here, because I know this is a really, really long battle. And I mean it. It took a long time.
Our men are running, sir!
Final units routed pretty much. So I'm coming to combat dwindled units, but still pretty good.
This building has
And then he
fallen to
charges
the
into
enemy.
the building, which was annoying at first. So I just fell back my men, not wanting to risk it. Back up to the hill. I mean, we're still gonna get fired on, but we're not gonna take much damage. Then I move them back over here, because I want to try to take out this Austrian player too while I'm at it. Which is gonna take a long time. I'm glad I'm fast forwarding through some of this. So my Allied Prussian player is pretty much done for, except for his rocket troops and whatever troops he has remaining. I'm still taking fire from the back due to this building. I think He kept his 42nd back there. So damage is kind of still being done with these foot units. Then I change my mind and come back and try to defend the hill again. Guess I'll play it right now. So these guys are just gonna get pretty much annihilated. We're not taking too many losses because my guys are kind of behind the hill, which I didn't really notice. But they're still gonna get killed pretty much. Then I noticed that the 40, Highland Foot, not 40, like a Black Watch, came out of the building, so they've kind of left the building now. And then he kind of goes back into the building. Maybe not. And my old guard decided to randomly fire, so I do believe I end up moving a couple more units over to this flank. I end up... one unit! One unit moves over to just basically provide the flanking fire. Austrian player still has a decent amount of force left. He still has cav units. And I start running that Fusilier line. My general staff did take a few casualties, probably due to a rocket, like every other casualty done on this battlefield. British player still trying to force me out of the way, but he does not have much force remaining other than what's back there. A couple of good units, but it's not going to put up to the fight of what I have left. So the amount of force that I have was cut right through the line. Plus with the Prussian player kind of reinforcing me here, it's just gonna take out his troops really quickly. Especially when they're being flanked like this Highland Foot is, and when we're firing downhill at the same time. Trying to wonder... I think he does eventually move up these foot units. And then he starts kind of bombarding the Austrian cav that is left with rockets, my Prussian ally. As he's pushing back, British player. Then I start moving a couple more units over, which is when I do believe I do try to flank around the Austrian player. So I still have 3 units remaining, Fusilier of line, old guard, and another old guard, which is a really formidable force, all on its own, the old guard. So I slowly begin to move these units around the flank. Does not mean it'll do too much damage. And I notice that my old guard and my any troop left that I have is being targeted by rockets. So I do eventually move them. I'm gonna fast forward it just a bit more. This combat is started again against the British player. So we're obviously taking some losses, but all his units are much more depleted than what he's going against of mine. His 42nd Black Watch down to 40 men. King's German Legion down to about a little under 30. And then that's when he just charges in all his infantry again. Damage will be done before he gets the charge in, but it won't succeed as a charge. So I continue to move this set of units up, these 2 Fusiliers. That kind of provide a bit of a counter charge. This is Highland Foot. Gonna do damage to this Fusilier of line, and it will probably rout. So all these men remaining of the British player is... Here come his final few units, 3 foot. Then I get charged in the back by the Austrian dragoons, unfortunately.
Our men are running.
It will rout my remaining units. So my few remaining units. And it is starting to look grim at this point. My old guard, my one Fusilier of line, are still a formidable force. Plus, with these guys flanking the Austrian player, we're just going to take out a good remainder of the force. But unfortunately, we're kind of shooting the hill right now. That's kind of when I move them up, but kind of in a cockeyed way. So much force is left for all players except obviously the Prussian, enemy Prussian. Kind of reform the line. Start shooting at the Windbuschjägers. Windbuschjägers. There you go. This is a wind, not wound. So then I notice that my troops are just walking around in this direction. I'm like, you're not supposed to be doing that. Because I thought there was a path here that they could take to get down, but no. There's all the canister shot up troops. So I end up just kind of reforming a line there to try to hold them off. So I put my last remaining units behind a hill. It's a bit harder for the rockets to hit them. Is that your goon unit? So basically all the remaining units are being hit by rocket fire by my allied Prussian, which is pretty much... Me and him are pretty much the only force remaining here. So that's when I am starting to get hit by the rockets too. But my units are going to start putting hurt into these last few remaining British units. My allies' rockets are going to become really, really handy by the end of this. I'm just getting bombarded by rockets also. That unit finally routs. So my allied rockets are taking the damage. And I kind of charge back at this 42nd Black Watch and this remaining King's German Legion foot. And that's just going to rout them, and I reform a line to try to combat them. So I just basically fall back. So I kind of just charge into them. Did not mean to do that, but... Rocket troops. My units make it to where they're supposed to line up, and they will begin to volley into these remaining British units. Though the enemy British player still has remaining experimental howitzer, the Austrian player still looks like he has a formidable force, but those rockets of my allies are just going to cut him up quickly.
Leave the dying, Private.
See the death on the battlefield. Just go examine the battlefield a bit before much more happens. There's a good amount of combat in these woods. This is pretty much the whole entire front line for the first 20 minutes, 10 minutes of the battle.
Our men are running, sir!
And then that unit routes. As I knew, it was starting to look extremely grim for my units, and basically this battle. The Austrian player's gonna charge in some of his weakest units that he has left, which are both Landschützen and Windbuschjägers. They're not that good at melee. They're only light infantry units, so it's not gonna do too much. So I basically tell my men to charge back into the building and help keep the building. And then at this point I had no choice but to move my old guard and my Fusilier of line. I'm going to fast forward it a bit more. So honestly, this is the only combat going on. Has all the British remaining charge into the building, which is 3-foot units. Which obviously my Fusilier of line are not going to hold up against all the British remaining.
Men are running,
and there they go. So that building's going to fall. Then this Fusilier of line returns, and I just basically try to form a line to start firing at them. So my poor old guard, both of them, is going to end up being the final resting place of everything. And then the final Austrian units are just kind of moving their way. So my Fusiliers are lining up to take the final shots.
This building has fallen to the enemy.
And there goes the building. Then I form a line with all my remaining units, the old guard, everything. Like I said, those rockets were going to do damage. And that's when I'm starting to get shot at. So I push the line forward a bit more and run them. No choice but to run the old guard. But the flanking position I sort of have, it's just going to be pandemonium for the remaining Austrian units. So I'm just getting bombarded by annoying rockets. See, this Hungarian Fusilier is getting cut up quickly. He kind of retreats them, but it ain't gonna do much good. With these rockets coming in and the old guard combined for firing, it's just not gonna aim too good. And then some perfect rocket shots just obliterate some foot units. And then that one routes. And then the other final two just decide to charge in. But my old guard are beginning to be formidable. Of course, they've always been formidable. And then this Austrian unit charges in against my old guard, which is not going to succeed. They won't even barely get to the line, not even try to slice up some of my old guard. Well, my unit numbers just go off by like 10 for some reason. But either way, they're going to rout. And then the last few British units just rout due to the rockets. And then I reform this old guard just to provide flanking fire. And then, not even before I can even really reform them, this unit is pretty much dead. So I'm going to begin to fast forward again because it's a really long march to get to those rockets. Kind of a boring ending, but it's a really epic ending. Is the Joseph Aleph Samaya. As I form a square, I unform it. The rockets kind of hit their mark, a couple of them. Then I notice that's happening, and I will charge my general in against that. Maybe a little bit too late to charge, but he will make it and save a couple of the rockets, which will become very, very formidable. As you can see, he's falling quickly.
We have killed their
there he
general,
goes.
sir. Now they must break.
So for the few Prussian rocket troopers that remain, it will help extremely. So for the few things that did happen, is my old guard are going to make a very, very slow and gracious march towards them. It's the general staff, the British. This is pretty much all that remains of the enemy force. Is the generals and whatever's left of the artillery. It's all that's left. I guess while the old guard march, guess we can observe what's happened in the battlefield. This being the final real engagement of the battle. This being pretty much all the beginning, just all right here. This is all the enemy Prussian. And then part of the British. my allied British player. And then I didn't take very many losses up. Well, I did take a lot of losses, but it doesn't look as thick as it does in here for the British player and the enemy Prussian. And then whatever happened over here, my allied British player just got annihilated by the enemy British. And then for the stupid reason and sake of what happened over here for the allied Prussian player, just got annihilated by canister shot. He's stupid, some odd 12-pounder foot artillery. Don't know why he didn't charge up. He should have moved off of the hill and just tried to kind of go around. It was kind of a bad idea. But yeah, that's pretty much what happened. Then the rocket troops just begin to kind of target whatever remains of this general staff unit, which it is pretty much full. As my old guard continue to get pummeled by rockets on their way there, including this Fusilier line. So they're basically going over the dead of the enemy troops. So here comes in more rockets. Is this old guard is taking the brunt of everything? I guess pretty much all of them are being hit at this point. Way too much is left. This general staff just decides to run away. So I don't even know why he didn't put his other rocket troop back on the rockets. I don't even know why he didn't do that. It will end up charging forward and it'll end up really doing nothing against the enemy. Is then the British experimental howitzer unlimbers and starts firing on my guys. So both of my old guard are getting pretty low in numbers. They're pretty much half force at this point. My Fusilier is 3/4 of the way there. It's pretty much just a please run and please make it game right now. Because like I said, my Prussian allied rocket trooper decides to come up, charge. A couple of rockets are kind of just making their way over. My general just sits back there patiently. As my old guard are just trying to run their way over to their position without getting hit too much. So I kind of reform at the last second. I don't know what I'm doing now. Like I said, yeah, this is a really, really, really long battle. So a couple of my old guard just get obliterated right there to the unfortunateness of rockets. And then Prussian rocket troopers just get charged by the other Prussian general. So my old guard are getting really, really low in numbers. The British player's general just kind of got hit a couple times. Then I charged in my old guard for the goodness of France. And then that old guard makes it to the experimental howitzer but routes. Then kind of get charged again here. By both generals, unfortunately. And I charge that old guard again against that experimental howitzer. And this old guard is going to fare long enough to take out the rockets, or pretty much almost all the rockets. As the British general routes, this experimental howitzer is gone. There it goes.
Killed their general, sir.
And then I killed the Prussian general.
They must break.
Then that old guard routed, and this is the only unit I have left. And it fights valiantly. This rocket troop just gets obliterated in melee combat almost.
Sir.
And the Prussian general routes. And then, stupidly enough, this is all that remains. So we have I'm fast forwarding right now. So bad. So the old guard is completely gone. That unit of rocket troop routes. This is all the remains of the rocket troop and the Prussian. Unfortunately, my general is all the way back here. I walk him for the first little bit on the trip. It's gonna take him forever to get there. And he actually, if you guys are wondering, we're spoiling the ending. He won't get there. These troops will eventually rout due to just the rocket troops of my ally. And there they go. Actually, no, they kind of just routed on their own. Never mind. Well, either way, you guys, that ends that extremely long battle on Waterloo. So I guess I will see you guys in the next Napoleon Total War multiplayer battle. Soon. Peace.